Welcome, everyone. And I'm glad I switched to my phone because my computer just decided to die on me. So we're going to keep the phone and lose the computer for now. But welcome, everyone. And we are beginning our two-part series, as I said, to the preparation for Pesach crash course, if you will. We are a couple of weeks away from Pesach. Pesach begins in 2.5 weeks, Friday night, and we are in full swing preparing for the holiday, getting ourselves ready for this special holiday, the holiday of freedom, the holiday of redemption. And the holiday of Pesach involves a lot more preparation than I feel any other holiday. Every holiday in the Jewish calendar, we gotta cook, we gotta prepare. Yes, we should definitely buy ourselves some nice, beautiful outfits. There's lots of things we do to prepare for every Jewish holiday, and there are different forms of preparation for each holiday. But the holiday of Pesach involves a lot more preparation physically, and as we know that everything that we learn about physically is also paralleled in the spiritual world as well. So as we prepare for the holiday physically, we as well want to prepare for the holiday spiritually. And we are going to go through some of these main ideas. For those of you who just joined, hi Maria, hi Lily, hi Esther. For those of you who want to turn your cameras on, you're welcome to. I'm on my phone, so I don't see everyone at once, so I keep sliding back and forth, but I do see all of you, and I'm so happy that you're here. And we are going to begin. So we are celebrating this holiday. We are preparing for this holiday, but what is the holiday of Pesach? What are we celebrating? What are we commemorating? What are we looking forward to? So the story of the Exodus from Egypt, which we all know the story of the Exodus from Egypt, a story that we recount at the Seder every year and we connect with every year during the Pesach Seder, is the story of the Jewish people leaving Egypt, making their way out of slavery, being released from bondage, and going from the world of being a slave to Pharaoh in Egypt and entering the world of free people who are a nation that God has chosen to take out of Egypt with incredible, magnificent miracles and brought to the desert, given the Torah, and eventually making our way to the Holy Land of Israel, to the place where they had been promised even before the Jews came down to Egypt as slaves. So we're preparing to celebrate this holiday. We're celebrating the freedom. So it's a holiday of freedom. But this idea of celebrating freedom is not just that we are remembering the fact that we were released from slavery and became free. This idea that we are celebrating is actually something that is occurring every day anew. And specifically, every year on Pesach, we are not just remembering the freedom, we are experiencing the freedom all over again. And this idea is actually found within the word that the Hebrew language has for the land of Egypt. Egypt in Lashon HaKodesh in Hebrew is Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim, the land of Egypt. We know that the Jews left Mitzrayim. The Jews were taken out of Egypt. But the word Mitzrayim can also be read in a different way if the vowels, the nikudot under the letters of the word are switched around. And because Hebrew is a holy language and it is God's language, the letters and the words themselves are not just a means of expression like any other language that was created as a way of expressing, but God's holy language actually contains lessons and morals and values and ideas, even within the letters and the words themselves. So the Hebrew word Mitzrayim can also be read as Meitzarim. The letters are the same, but the pronunciation of the vowels is different. And because it is a holy language, there is a connection between these words by virtue of the fact that they share the same holy letters. So Mitzrayim means Egypt. Meitzarim is the Hebrew word for boundary and limitation. So when we are being freed from our Egypt, our Mitzrayim every year, what we are really experiencing is freedom from our own personal boundaries, our own personal limitations that hold us back from achieving our potential, from experiencing growth. Hello, Pearl, welcome. From experiencing true freedom. We all have our own personal boundaries and limitations that hold us back from becoming the best version of ourselves. We all have boundaries, self-imposed restrictions that we put up for ourselves because going past them involves going out of our comfort zone, beyond our comfort level. And it's easier to stay within these boundaries. But it's very difficult for us to grow and become better and achieve greater things when we are limited by our own boundaries. So every year, when we prepare for Pesach, when we prepare ourselves to remember the holiday of freedom, we don't just want to remember the story of the Jewish people experiencing freedom. What we want to prepare for is so that we can ourselves experience freedom from our own personal limitations, from our own boundaries, from the chains that hold us slaved to whatever it is that we are a slave to. And for each of us, that could be different things. For some, we might be a slave to our jobs. For some of us, we might be a slave to our temptations. For some of us, we might be slaves to our feelings or our anxieties or our whatever it is that we feel we are a slave to. That is something that we can break free from. That is the idea of experiencing personal freedom. And in order to experience that, we need to prepare ourselves. Talking about experiencing freedom from slavery, it reminds me of a story that I heard a couple of weeks ago, right after Purim. I was having a conversation with my mother. I drive to school every day, and I spend about 20 to 30 minutes in the car. And that's usually when I have a conversation with my mother, who lives in Canada and I don't see very often. And I was talking to her, it was right after Purim, and she was telling me about a person who my father had arranged for someone to read the Megillah for him. My father is a rabbi in Canada, and he has many connections with different people. And because of COVID, people were hearing Megillah in their own homes or offices. And there was someone who had told my father, I'm really busy. I have meetings. I can't deal with it. Sorry, I can't hear the Megillah. Come later. Don't come, whatever it is. And my father told him, listen, are you a slave to your job that you're not going to hear Megillah on Purim because you have to have this meeting? And he's his own boss. He can make his own hours. It's not like, you're in school or you're somewhere where you have your own schedule that you can't control. He could control his own schedule. Are you a slave to that? And he stopped for a moment and he said, Rabbi, you're right. Send the guy up. I want to hear Megillah. And he was so happy because he was able to break free from that chain that he had put upon himself, that I need to be doing this at this and this time, but really no. He had become a slave to that he wasn't allowing himself to do the mitzvah that really he should have been doing at that time. And thank God he was able to break free from that slavery of that moment and become free and experience freedom so that his soul can truly be free. And those are the types of freedoms that we want to be able to experience as well, that we shouldn't be holding ourselves back from doing the right thing. We shouldn't be holding ourselves back from growing and experiencing new things and opening ourselves up to new possibilities and new opportunities. We want to be able to truly experience freedom. So the way for us to prepare for that can be found in the lessons that we learned from the actual physical activities that we do in order to prepare our homes for Pesach. So let's delve into the nitty-gritty of how do we get ready for Pesach. Now, there's a very famous singer from years ago. You may have heard of him. His name was Moshe Yes. And he had a song that, I don't know if he wrote the song or if he just sang the song. The song went, I've got the Here Comes Pesach blues. And the song went, I'm not going to sing the whole song, but the gist of it was that a Jewish woman's gotta pay her dues by cleaning the house for Pesach. And that as soon as Purim is done, I've got the Here Comes Pesach blues, because we have to clean every part of our house and we have to rid our homes from chametz. We need to clean every area. We need to completely vacuum and wash and sweep and mop to get rid of any form of chametz that is in our homes. So let's see, what is chametz? On Pesach, there is a law that we are not allowed to eat, see, or own. Well, when I say see, anything that belongs to us, or own any food item that is chametz. What is chametz? Any food item that is made of a grain that is able to rise. For example, bread, cakes, cookies, pastas, anything that is a grain-based item is chametz. Anything that is mixed with anything that is chametz becomes chametz as well. For example, your regular pots and pans that you use, that you cook chametz in, your stove, whatever it is falls under the category of chametz. Now, to prepare for Pesach, to prepare our homes to celebrate the holiday of Pesach, which is an 8-day holiday, we need to remove any chametz from our homes. We need to clean, make sure that there are no crumbs. Anything that does have chametz, we need to cover up, close, seal. And if it is your custom, which we have the custom that anything that we do own that is chametz, for example, our pots and pans, we are not allowed to own it even on chametz, on Pesach. So what we do is, and I will send more information and a link for anybody who wants to do it online is the easiest way, or you can do it through the rabbi, is we actually sell all of our chametz to a non-Jew, so that during the holiday of Pesach, we do not own any item, any food particle, any food utensil, any cooking equipment, anything that has come in contact with or that contains chametz. So we sell it off to a non-Jew, and there's a procedure, halachic procedure to do it, is an actual physical purchasing and selling contract that we sign so that we do not have any chametz in our homes. So to prepare for Pesach, we need to clean our homes and get rid of chametz. But if we think about what chametz actually is, and we contrast it to what we do eat on Pesach, which is matzah, because the only bread, quote unquote, that we eat on Pesach is matzah, or anything that is kosher for Passover, which means that it is made either with matzah meal, if you have the custom to use that, or it'll be made with potato flour or any other form of flour that is not grain-based. These two opposites, chametz and matzah, when we contrast the two and we really understand what they each consist of and what they each represent, we can really understand what it means to prepare ourselves to experience freedom. So what is the difference between matzah and chametz? So matzah is made of two ingredients, flour and water. It's a grain, it's flour, and it can be made of, most matzahs are made of wheat, but just putting it out there for anybody who is gluten-free, there is gluten-free matzah that is made with oat flour. For those who are wheat intolerant, there's spelt flour. There's many forms of flour, but it's wheat flour mainly mixed with water, which is the basis of any dough. So what is the difference between matzah dough and challah dough? Now, of course, challah dough also has a bunch of other things that make it a lot more delicious, but the basis is the same. So what is the difference? Matzah does not have any leavening agents. It doesn't rise. Not only does it not have any ingredients that makes it rise, it is never given the opportunity at any point in the baking and preparing process to rise at all. The process of baking matzah must happen from when the dough is being mixed together and kneaded until it comes out of the oven. It must be less than 18 minutes so that it doesn't have even the slightest chance of getting any air into matzah. There can be no rising, no air. That's why as soon as it's mixed and it's rolled out, there are many and it has all the tiny holes in it. You ever seen how matzah is prepared? They have these rollers with little spikes to make holes in the dough so that there isn't the slightest chance for the matzah dough to rise. Matzah has got to be flat, completely full of substance. There is no air. It is all substance. Contrast that with any delicious pastry, any bread, any cake, even a cracker. There is air inside. It rises. If it's a challah, the goal is for it to be risen and fluffy and delicious. If it's a cake, we want it to rise. Even if it's a dense cake, you want it to rise. If it doesn't rise at all, it's a flop. Even a cracker has that slight thickness that gives it the bite that you so enjoy because it rises that little bit to give it the texture that you want. So what is it that chametz has that matzah does not? The first thing is air. Now, what's air? You would think that's nothing. So really, what's the difference? If the difference is air, then is the difference really nothing? No. The difference is huge because it's all about the amount of air. The expression that you say about a person who's full of hot air is not a good expression. It's not a positive connotation. When you say that someone's full of air, it means that they're full of nothing. It means that they're so full of themselves, but they're lacking substance. That's when we call someone full of hot air. Someone who is, the Hebrew expression is a Baal Gaiva, someone who is so full of themselves, someone who is so haughty, so boastful, really, they're full of air. Someone who is not full of air, someone who is full of substance, is someone who possesses the quality of humility. Not that they put themselves down and that they think that they are bad, but that they recognize that the potential for greatness that they possess is not their own. It's not all about me. It's not about how wonderful I am and how great I am and how wonderfully talented and capable and accomplished one is, but what incredible opportunities God has afforded me with, what talent I have been blessed with that I can use to help others. That is the concept of humility. And those are two very different types of outlooks about a person. When a person is all about everything, I do this, I do that. When a person is all about how they are so perfect and how they are so wonderful and everything is about them, more often than not, it's really just air. It's really just nothing. Because what do they really have? What do they really have if they're so busy talking about themselves? Not enough substance. That's the idea of chametz. Matzah represents humility, a humble person who is not always looking to rise and is looking to be famous and be noticed and be acknowledged for their greatness. No, they're looking to accomplish. They're looking to fill their lives with substance. They're looking to fill their lives with meaning. They're looking to share their abilities and to grow in a substantial way, not to rise and levitate on the air, but rather to grow and become greater in a real and in a substantial and meaningful and fulfilling way. That is the idea of chametz versus matzah. And that is the first way, the first manner in which we can prepare ourselves to properly experience freedom. As we said before, freedom doesn't just mean remembering the story of the Exodus from Egypt. Freedom means learning how to experience freedom in our own lives, learning how to find ways to break free from everything that holds us back from growing and accomplishing. Freedom means breaking through the chains that we put upon ourselves and moving past our comfort zones, moving past the barriers that enslave us and that hold us back from growing. And the first step to accomplishing that is humility. It is recognizing that there is a power greater than myself. There is a God who has given me the strength that I need. God is the one who gives me the ability to accomplish what I need to accomplish. I am not the one who creates my own opportunities. God is the one who gives me opportunities. I am not the one who has given myself abilities. God is the one who has given me abilities, and I am able to cultivate those abilities. So as soon as we become humble and we lose the I and bring in God, we can recognize that if God wants me to grow, and if there are opportunities for me to grow, I don't need to hold myself back. Because these barriers are barriers that I have placed upon myself. They're not barriers that God has placed upon me. Barriers that God places upon us are the laws of the Torah, which are not really barriers that hold us back from growth. They are fences that keep us safe so that we can grow in a secure and healthy manner. But boundaries that we put upon ourselves, if we keep boundaries holding us in captivity, that is a very haughty mindset. That means that I decided that I can't do this, and therefore I will not. Then you're full of hot air if you think that you're the one who decides what you can and cannot do. If you're really humble and you really know that God is the one who has given me potential and God is the one who gives us abilities to grow, then when God gives us opportunities to expand beyond our capabilities, what we think our capabilities are, and God has given us opportunities to go beyond our comfort zones, those are things that are not holding us back because we shouldn't go there. They are things that are holding us back because God wants us to break through them and experience true freedom. So when we really feel humble and really focus on the fact that, like a matzah, I'm not full of air, I'm full of substance because God is the one who has given me all of these abilities, then we can look past our challenges and look past our self-imposed boundaries and start experiencing freedom. So that is the first contrast between chametz and matzah, and that is the first lesson on understanding freedom. So when we are preparing our homes to get rid of all the chametz, and we're cleaning out the chametz from our homes, we also need to clean out, take a deeper look, not just in the corners of the bedrooms and not just in the corners of the drawers and checking to see where there might be crumbs. And if you have little children at home, you know what I mean when I say that you got to look everywhere for crumbs. And even if you don't have little children, but you're like me and you like to snack around the house, look around because you're going to find crumbs everywhere. We need to look inside the corners of our soul, the drawers within our heart. Really take a look inside ourselves and see which boundaries are we holding ourselves back with to experience freedom. Where do we feel like it's all about me when it really could be all about somebody else? Where are we full of hot air that we can burst that bubble, release that air, and create space instead of having this air taking up space, but create space for growth? That is the first contrast between chametz and matzah. The other idea between chametz and matzah is something that, if anyone has ever played the game, do you rather, or this or that? You know, if you're on Instagram, you see all of these stories, people posting this or that, or, you know, which do you prefer? Whatever form the game takes place. But I'm sure that if I would ask anybody, or at least a very big part of the population, what do you prefer? A nice slice of cake or a matzah? Come on, unmute yourself. What do you prefer?
Definitely the cake.
Okay, right? If I was going to offer you a choice between a slice of challah or a matzah, what would you choose?
Challah. Challah.
That's right. You have good taste. You know, challah, cake, cookies, that's chametz. And it looks a lot more appetizing than the matzah. And it tastes a lot more appetizing than the matzah. Let's be real. Matzah doesn't have much of a taste. Challah, cake, cookies, pasta, it's delicious. It looks good. It tastes good. Is it good for you? That's another story, but it sure makes you feel good in the moment. You know, many times in life we have a choice. And when we are in situations where we have the choice of going right or left, choosing right or choosing wrong, making the better choice or the choice that's not so good for our souls, very often we experience a moment where the negative choice looks a lot more tantalizing. Why does that happen? Each one of us inside of us, in our soul, we have our Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, and we have the Yetzer Tov, the good inclination, the part of our soul that wants us to do selfish things, and the part of our soul that wants us to do godly things. Now, when we are faced with a choice, we have these two voices that are competing. Hasidic thought in the Tanya explains that it's like a war happening inside of us, and each nation is fighting for control over our soul. We have our negative side, the animalistic side, the selfish side of us that wants to do whatever makes us feel good, whatever makes us happy in the moment, whether it's good for us or not good for us. That side of us, the Yetzer Hara, is fighting for control. And then we have the Yetzer Tov, the good side in us, our good conscience that's trying to convince us do the right thing. The problem is, as the Rebbe explains, the Yetzer Hara is a kluger. A kluger in Yiddish means is a smart one. So the evil inclination comes to us in a way that makes the negative choice so much more inviting. When we have the choice of doing the right thing or the wrong thing, most of the time, what do we feel like? The wrong thing is often the easier choice. And doing the right thing is harder. It involves more effort. It involves more sacrifice. It involves more commitment. And the wrong thing looks a lot better, looks a lot more delicious, just like the cake versus the matzah. Now, that doesn't mean that cake and challah and pasta is always bad. And I'm not talking from a nutritional point of view, because matzah is not that much better from a nutritional point of view. But over here, we're talking about for a soul point of view. A whole year, challah is a mitzvah. Eating delicious food for the right reasons with a blessing, kosher food, is a mitzvah. But in this moment, when we need to make the choice between something that looks delicious and something that is filled with holiness, we need to remember to choose the matzah. Because our Yetzer Hara will usually, in fact, I can safely say will always, or almost always, make the wrong choice look more inviting. And when we realize that, when we know that when I am faced with a choice and I am able to overcome the temptation of doing what is easier, what is more inviting, even though it's wrong, and instead going for the harder choice, which is harder to chew, which is harder to swallow, like the matzah, and doing it because this is what God wants from me, and making the right choice whether we want to or not, that allows us to truly be free, because we're not a slave to our evil inclination, because we recognize that the temptation is really just our Yetzer Hara trying to convince us to do the wrong thing. So the beauty of the negative choice is really just a facade. There is no real beauty behind it, because it's just air. It looks delicious, but it's not actually good for us. So there's so much freedom in the ability to make the right choice, even when it's the harder choice, knowing that the easier choice and the more exciting looking choice is not actually going to bring us happiness. Because even if it will bring us happiness in the moment, happiness from doing the wrong thing doesn't last. And it is usually followed by guilt. And it is usually followed by difficulty, because we know we made the wrong choice, and wrong choices have negative consequences. But when we make the right choice and we do the right thing and we commit to doing things even when it's harder, we know that we have put ourselves in the position of growth, in the position of being free, because we are not being a slave to our temptations. We are not being a slave to our evil inclination, to our Yetzer Hara. And this is what we need to look for when we are searching our home and preparing for Pesach and searching for the chametz and cleaning out the chametz so that it is not there anymore. Looking deep into ourselves and seeing what choices do I make that I can make better choices? What choices am I faced with that I can choose something that is good for me, even if it is a harder choice? It is harder to chew and swallow, just like the matzah. It might not be as tempting looking and as delicious looking and as enticing as the delicious chocolate pastry. Insert here whatever your favorite craving is, that it is usually chametz. And put in that place something that will bring long-term benefits, something that will bring long-term growth, and something that will help you really experience freedom. This is what matzah symbolizes. Matzah symbolizes doing the right thing, even when it's hard for us. And these two ideas of the preparation for Pesach being, number one, to be humble, like a matzah, without any air. And number two, making a choice that is the right choice, even if it is not as enticing and inviting looking, because we know that it is really just the evil yetzer hara, the evil inclination, the negative conscience within us that is trying to convince us that it is the right thing to do when really we know it's not the right thing for us. These two ideas combined express a concept in Judaism that we call Kabbalat Ol. There are many mitzvot in the Torah. God has given us many commandments. Some are easier for us to do than others. Some are more enjoyable for us to do than others. But everything that we do, that God tells us to do, comes from or should come from the feeling of Kabbalat Ol. What is Kabbalat Ol? Kabbalat Ol, literally translated, means the acceptance of the yoke. What is a yoke? When a farm animal is sent out to plow, there is a yoke that is placed on its back. It's a burden, it's heavy, and it keeps it in place. It keeps it on the right path. What is this idea of Kabbalat Ol? It means that we do what God wants of us, whether we want to or not. Now, that sounds like a very harsh statement, but the truth is it really means that we do the right thing because God wants us to do it. We behave like a soldier. Now, sometimes we enjoy doing it. And even when we're doing something we want to do, we should still have in mind that I'm doing this because God wants me to do it, and not just because it makes me happy, because then we really embody the mitzvah and not just a nice experience. It becomes a mitzvah. So we do the right thing because God wants us to do it. And that's what matzah represents. We have faith in God. We do the right thing. Even sometimes it's hard for us, but we still do what God wants of us. That's Kabbalat Ol. We're like a soldier. We are humble. Humble means it's not all about me, it's all about God. So my desires and my temptations are insignificant in comparison to the mission that God has for me in this world. So I'm humble. It's not about me, it's about God. The second thing, I have Kabbalat Ol. I do the right thing. I do what is good, even when my evil inclination is tempting me with something that is a lot more exciting. That's Kabbalat Ol. But you know what? It doesn't sound like something that's very enjoyable. It sounds like you do what you got to do. That's not very enjoyable. And some people might think, well, yeah, that's the perfect representation of matzah because matzah is not very tasty. And it's true. Matzah does not have any extra ingredients to enhance the flavor. It has no taste. It's just flour and water, representing the fact that we do what is right, even if we don't have flavor. But you know what? There is a law that on Erev Pesach, the day before the Seder, you are not allowed to eat matzah. The day before the Seder, you are not allowed to eat matzah. In fact, many people have the custom, we have a custom that 30 days before Pesach, which means already starting Purim, we do not eat matzah. Why is that? Because we want to get excited about the taste of the matzah. And if you eat too much of it, you might not appreciate the delicious taste of the matzah. So we don't eat it. We're saving it so that we can enjoy the taste of the matzah. Not only that, after we eat the afikoman, at the end of the Pesach Seder, we are not allowed to eat anything else. It is one of the laws of the Seder. In fact, that is the last law of the Seder, which when we learn about the 4 sons in the Haggadah, and the Haggadah says that when the wise son wants to know all about the Seder, you teach him every last law, including the law that after we eat the afikoman, we do not eat anything else. Why not? Because we don't want to lose the delicious taste of the matzah. So what's going on here? Is matzah tasteless? Or is it so delicious that we don't want to lose the flavor? Is matzah flavorless? Or is it full of flavor that we can't wait to eat it, that we want to anticipate the excitement for it, that we don't eat matzah? So what is it? You know what? It's both. This is the epitome of freedom. The epitome of freedom is enjoying behaving like a soldier. It is appreciating and taking pleasure in Kabbalat Ol. It is enjoying the feeling of doing what I have to do, even if I don't want to. Now, that sounds like such a paradox. If I'm doing what I don't want to do just because God is telling me to do it, then I'm not enjoying it. And if I am enjoying it, then I'm not just doing it because God wants me to do it. So how do we bridge these two ideas which seem to be conflicting? So this concept is very similar to someone who is at the Grand Canyon. If you've ever been to the Grand Canyon or in any of the beautiful parts of the world, or even if you haven't been to one of the great beauties of nature, even just watching a beautiful sunset from your window or sitting at the beach and seeing something beautiful. When you are looking at a beauty in nature, you feel so insignificant in comparison to the beauty of God's creations. Someone who is sitting, and I remember sitting when I was living in Italy, we took a trip to the Alps in the border where Italy and Switzerland are on the border. And I spent a year in Italy. It was a beautiful year. I spent a year studying there. And we went to the mountains and I was sitting, we took a hike with a few friends and we were hiking up to an area which basically was overlooking a cliff. And right across us, we could see the beauty of the Alps. And I've never seen the Swiss side of the Alps, but from what I've been told from people who have seen it, the Italian side is even more beautiful. So you can imagine the incredible beauty that we were sitting and enjoying. And I remember sitting there and you feel like you're nothing in comparison to the vast beauty of nature. And I felt like so insignificant when I saw the incredible, immense godliness that can only be the explanation for such incredible beauty. You feel like you're nothing, like everything is God. But on the other hand, you feel so lucky that you are able to experience something so incredibly beyond yourself. That yes, I'm nothing compared to all of this. And yet I am part of this picture. And yet I am here able to experience this. So there's such a contrast of the humility of being nothing in comparison to God, coupled with the gratitude that you are able to experience such greatness that is so beyond yourself. So this idea can give us an insight into understanding this feeling of enjoying the fact that we only do what God wants us to do, even if we don't want to do it. There is such pride in the fact that God chose me to be his soldier, that I am able to do things that are beyond me, that we are able to connect to something that is so much greater than us, so much more powerful than us, so much more infinite than our own finite beings, that we are able to do things even when we don't want to do them. It's like, imagine a soldier. A soldier is part of the army. Soldier doesn't get to choose when he gets up, when he goes to bed, what he does during the day, what he wears. A soldier follows orders. And it's not a pleasant, enjoyable lifestyle to be a soldier. And yet, what do we have? Comes Veterans Day. Every soldier is proud to be a soldier. Why are they proud to be a soldier? Because they're proud to be part of something that is so much greater than themselves. They're proud to be someone who has been entrusted to follow through with missions and get things done and save their country and protect their country and be someone who is more than just their own personal limitations. This is what it means to enjoy the matzah, to enjoy being humble, to enjoy making the right choices even when they're hard for us, because it means that we have become something that is so much greater than ourselves. And that is true freedom. So the way that we prepare for Pesach, the way that we can prepare ourselves, not just to remember the freedom from Egypt, but to remember the Exodus and experience it all over again, because we are being free. We are becoming free from our own personal limitations, from our own personal boundaries, from our own self-imposed chains, our own difficulties that make us slaves. And that is what truly makes us someone who can have Kabbalat Ol, someone who can be more than our own physical limitations, because we are limited. We are finite beings. We have limitations. But when we use the idea of a matzah, and when we rid ourselves of the concept of what is chametz, we are able to truly be free. So ladies, we have 2 weeks of intense cleaning. We got to clean the house, get rid of any crumbs, but let's not forget about the spiritual cleaning that we can do as well. Finding the areas that need to be cleaned out within our hearts and our souls. Finding the areas that are holding us back from achieving our true potential, and looking at choices that we make and thinking, is there a more godly choice that I can make? Is there a better choice that I can make that will really set my soul free, even if it's the less delicious looking choice? It's a matzah choice. It's not a chocolate cake choice. It's not a challah choice. It's a matzah choice. It's a choice that I make to be like a matzah. And when we make those choices, we should enjoy making those choices, because we know that we are making a choice that will really set us free, that will allow us to really become part of something so much greater than us, something so much bigger than us, something so much more powerful than us. And this is the concept of Pesach. So as we are cleaning, I also want to remind you all that dust is not chametz. Your children and your husband and your housekeeper are not the Korban Pesach. Do not slaughter them. And you can enjoy the process because it's about cleaning the chametz. And yes, we do need to make sure that there are no crumbs of bread or crumbs of anything else anywhere in our house. And we do need to close up any cabinets in the kitchen that have chametz ingredients, that have chametz utensils. We do need to clean our kitchens. We do need to make our Pesach living area kosher for Passover. But we also want to make sure that we ourselves, our soul, our heart, our mind is also kosher for Passover. So on that note, and on the knock that I'm getting on my door, which tells me that my baby is crying, I will wish you all happy cleaning, an enjoyable preparation for Pesach, and God willing, I look forward to seeing you all next week. We're going to be going through the Pesach Seder, the what, the how, and the why. It will be a combination of practical and meaning so that we enjoy the Seder, we know what to do at the Seder, and we can appreciate the meaning behind everything. If anyone has any questions, I'm going to open up the floor. If anyone has any questions or comments, come in. And we will continue, God willing, next week with that. So if anyone has any questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself. And for those who are getting off before the question period, thank you so much for joining. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. And please unmute yourself if you have any questions.
I have a question.